This would be good. Okay. Good morning officially, once again. And let me do a roll call. I don't think that Mr. Nimitz will be joining us today, but I'm present. Rose Thompson,
Present.
Dr. White,
Francis White, present.
and Mr. Clemens.
Present.
Okay, we're having a meeting today for one agenda item. And now that we have a quorum, let me turn this over to Carl. And Carl, you can talk to us about our agenda item for today.
Sure. Give me just a second to find my my session. I'm lost.
Carl, would you like to take control? Would it be easier for you to take control? I can make you a co-host.
No, what's happened is I've lost my, okay, there I go. I lost my video. Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay.
So I unfortunately had to call ask Dr. Anderson to call the special board meeting today because we run into an issue with our Midland relocation project where we knew that there was some asbestos on site, and we had an environmental study done by Corel Environmental Consultants, and a significant amount of asbestos was found on the site. We knew that there was going to be some because a portion of the building had been built prior to the 1970s. So we expected it in that area. However, when the study came back, there was significant amount of asbestos in areas outside of that 1960s build. So with that, our architects put together a demolition plan that would allow for us to begin removing the asbestos. We sent that out to 7 different contractors that do work in the Midland area. And out of the 7, 2 of those responded with a bid stating that they would have the ability to do that work. Unfortunately, the caveat for that was that they would have to start immediately because they were both booked for the summer. As soon as school begins to let out in May, they are booked solid, and mostly for school districts and colleges in the area. So that's the purpose for this morning's meeting. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the need to do this renovation or this relocation in Midland. Our current location in Midland is only 6,883 square foot. And at this location, we're paying roughly $18,000 per month in rent. And our kids, we have 142 kids enrolled at that campus, and it only has 5 classrooms. Fortunately, we split the day, so we have 70 in the morning, 70 in the afternoon, more or less. And with that, we also have 20 students that are in the process to enroll. So that would take us from 142 kids up to 162 kids.
And Carl, so, yes, if I might, as I said to the board members before, you know, I've been to that Midland campus. When I first came on to RMA, that campus was right around 80 kids total enrollment. I have been there over the past 2 years, and the numbers have gone up consistently. And I've witnessed their largest room, them running 2 classrooms in that one class setting. So a teacher over on the far right side, a teacher running a class on the left side. The teacher break room, students are in there. They have tables with chairs in the teacher workroom or the break room where the teachers are supposed to have lunch. That's being utilized as a classroom as well. So even at, and that was before the 140. So even at that, with the 140, they're packed in there like sardines, as some would say, in the current location. So we would be forced, even if we didn't move from that building, we would be forced to have to expand, which is an option that the owners have provided us. Now, Carl, I'm just going to go ahead into the whole cost of that, if it's okay with you.
Sure, that's fine.
So even if we were to expand, we would get 5 more classrooms. And in 2020, when we inquired about the expansion, it was $300,000 to expand to add 5 classrooms. And that was in 2020. And most of you all are well aware that the cost of materials and all of that stuff in construction has gone up significantly over the past 2 years. So I don't know for certain, but I'm going to guess that it would probably now be around $400,000 to $500,000 to do that expansion. The reason that the rent is currently $18,000 is because when we did the first expansion in that the build out originally, it was built into the rent,
Correction there, 18,000 is just the rent.
It came down after last year.
Yeah, it was 22,000 with the build out.
With the build out. And so if we were to go and ask them to build out $400,000 again, you could imagine that our rent probably would be somewhere around $27,000, $28,000 a month. Does that make sense, board members?
Yes.
Okay.
And Carl, that's for Carl.
Yes, ma'am.
Historically speaking, that campus was not built for the intent of housing a student population of over 70.
No, it was not. We originally had 2 campuses in the Midland area. We had one that was a little further north and this campus. And in 2016, I think it was, this campus was built out to support the possibility of doing an adjudicated youth population for the local juvenile detention center. That did not come to fruition. There was also a teacher shortage at the time in the Midland area, and it was decided that it would be better to consolidate the 2 campuses onto this one campus. Now, originally, our 2 campuses together probably had a population of 240 kids. This new location, which would nearly, if we would go from 6,800 square foot to about 15,800 square foot, we would be able to accommodate more kids. And with the lease structure that we've designed, we would be looking at locking into this location for 12 years. And the location is in a better situation. It's in a neighborhood, where all of our kids are the better part of our kids come from. So I think we would be looking at expanding, the number of students fairly quickly at this new location.
Carl?
What did the survey say when we asked how many kids would be willing to, that current students would be willing to relocate to the new location?
It was nearly 100% because all of our kids, this would be closer to their homes.
And on a bus line, right?
And it is on the bus line, and there is a bus stop on the corner of the new location. So it would be a lot more accessible for our current students and then any outlying students as well. So with that, I think it's important to let the board know that the move is much needed. It's much needed in this area. The rent structure is very is very good for RMA. The total monthly rent for the first 3 years is only $10,625 per month. So there would be a significant savings. Roughly over the course of 3 years, we would be saving roughly $255,000. With that, I would like to ask that the board consider approving the asbestos abatement contract for $160,000 and $160,040. However, I do want the board to know like what the risk factors are.
Well,
that are
before you go
involved.
there, Carl, can I interrupt also?
Yes.
We are trying to negotiate with the church to cover half of that $160,000. We've asked the realtor, and you can talk about it more. The realtor has reached out, and we realize that the church doesn't have $80,000 cash to put up front. So we've asked for roughly $2,200 discount in the lease amount for the first 3 years of the lease, which would equate to $80,000.
Yes, and then as kind of a second option, we were asking for the possibilities of some reductions in one of the things that is written into the lease is that we would be able to purchase the property as early as after the first 3 years, and we would be asking for some reductions in that purchase price as well. So that's a second option that we're exploring with the church. So with that, I'd like to mention the risk factors of going into this contract to demolish the building or the asbestos. So if we approve this today, the contractors would begin work tomorrow morning. And with that, we would have spent $160,000 for the asbestos removal, and the building would be gutted out so that the general contractor could begin their work. Now, we don't have the general contractor's final bids yet. We have estimates that were based on some estimates that we got in a couple of months ago. And the new bid opening for the general contractor is scheduled for May the 13th, so that we would have that ready for the board meeting on May the 20th. So with that, if we begin this work, we would, expend the $160,000 plus the church would be gutted and prepared for the general contractor. And when we get those bids back in, it's our estimate that amount would be around $600,000. But given the current climate, those numbers could come in a little bit higher. And I just wanted to make sure the board knew that. Risk factor number 2 is that we have spent quite a bit of money already. We have incurred some architectural fees, engineering fees, some environmental studies. We've engaged the city of Midland already, so there are some expenses that have already been incurred. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention, and Dr. Anderson, I don't know if you wanted to speak on this more, is we're still waiting on our PPP loan forgiveness, which is coming, or we're expecting by the end of this year. I did have some conversations with Ryan Bennett at the Frost Bank yesterday, and he is working to try to speed that process up. But I don't have any guarantees that that would happen. So Dr. Anderson, would you like to?
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at this diagram and making sure I'm reading it correctly. So there's ceiling throughout the building that needs to be abated, and then flooring only in some of it. Is that correct?
That's correct. And a few walls. The green lines are the walls that would
Okay.
need to be removed. The ceiling is needing to be abated because the city is requiring us to sprinkle the building to be able to get the education designation for the certificate of occupancy. So it would require us to do work in the whole area as far as sprinkling the building.
Okay. And one other question. What was your total budget for this project?
So the total budget that we have for the project, hold on just a second, I just had that.
956, wasn't it? 956.
Yeah, 956,000. We had budgeted 175,000 or 176,000 for the abatement work. The bid actually came in a little bit less than that. It came in at $160,040. So with that, the total cost of the project is $965,450.
Okay.
I have a question. If Dr. Person is finished, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay.
What does the PP loan has to do with it? If we do receive, if we don't receive, what effect does this have on this?
Well, Dr. White, if you remember, the PPP loan was that money that they gave us, that $2 million. If you remember at the last board meeting, Tammy said that until we realize that loan amount forgiven, we would be in a deficit. You remember she said that we were in a deficit until that PPP loan was finally closed out and removed off the books. Once that's removed from the books, we would be at a surplus of around $500,000, the district would be. So we've, it's the PPP loan will be approved. I mean, because we've met all the criteria. It's just back and forth paperwork. Hey, send us this, send us that. And so, but what we wanted to make the board aware of is if it's not approved by June or removed from the books by June, then we would say our accounting would say we have a deficit. So this $160,000 would then just add to that deficit. But as long as that PPP loan is realized and forgiven before June, then it won't be a big issue. So we just wanted to let the board know. So if we come and say, oh, well, we spent that $160,000 and added to the deficit, we just didn't want that to be the conversation.
Okay, now I have another question. The lease on this building is what, for 3 years?
The lease is for 3 years with three 3-year extensions.
So 12-year total.
Okay.
12 years total.
Okay, so if we were to invest in the removal of the asbestos and the other repairs, we don't stand a chance of losing that money if the church doesn't lower our loan. Did I understand that correctly? Or help me to understand.
If the church doesn't what, Dr. White?
If the church doesn't lower our release on that from one amount to
So
another?
they would have to renew it for 12 years. We have an option for three-year renewal. So it's not up to them. They've agreed that for 12 years, we can lease that facility.
We can
Now,
lease
in
it.
addition to lease that facility, we also should get a reduction in the amount that we lease it for, because that would take out from them for the assistance in the removal of asbestos. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's what we're trying to negotiate.
And if the negotiation should not do what it just remain to be seen if we had to eat the entire cost?
So even if the church isn't able to help participate in the asbestos removal, we are still looking at the difference between our cost savings from our current location with only 6,000 square foot to our new location with 15,000 square foot. we're still looking at over 3 years, $255,000 savings to RMA. So theoretically, we would save enough money to cover the asbestos removal and in the rent, but we are asking for some compensation in that area.
Because we got to remember, we're going from 18,000 to 10, which is a
From
steal,
8 to-
which is
yeah.
it's a huge steal. I think Carl thought I was crazy when we threw that number out, but they bought it, and so it's a win-win. But I still want to push for them to give us some concession. But you know,
Right.
and we will fight for it, Dr. White. But right now, it's either we wait till we get the concession before we move forward, or we move forward and look at it as, well, we're saving on rent every month from where we currently are.
Okay, so going back to the loan forgiveness, I guess what you're trying to tell us is that there might be some timing issues, that you're hoping that by the end of June, that loan is forgiven, but if not, then it will happen. It's just not going to happen maybe in the time that we want. But you sort of the sticker shock, you don't want it to look like we're spending money that's not there.
Exactly.
Because it's there, it's just the timing issue of when it hits your books and when the loan is
Yes.
forgiven.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Yes, and even so, if the PPP loan forgiveness does not come through, there will be a deficit. Let's just say $500,000, but this would add another $160,000 to it. So it would not prevent, not moving forward would not prevent the deficit. It would just add to the deficit, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Question,
okay.
when are we going to have the conversation with the church? to
We've
see-
already started it.
Okay, but when
We're
do we
already having
expect-
that conversation.
When do we expect to have an answer from them as to how they will proceed, if they're going to lower the cost of our monthly installments, or since we say they don't have $80,000 up front? I think that's one question that's in my mind right now.
Well, we will, I was pushing to have an answer by today, but apparently I guess they did not respond. I don't know, Carl, did Amy say?
They did. They just have everything at the church is done by committee, and they have to meet with other people, and it's not a timely conversation.
Okay.
But trust me, I will keep pushing because, and I'll say that publicly, just because if you all approve us to move forward, I'm not going to stop the fight and say, oh, well, we've paid for it. Now let's just move on. That's not an option. And Carl should know that I will continue to poke and poke and poke until we get some concession somewhere, somehow.
Well,
Time-
it seems to me as if the church is actually going to get a much nicer facility that they can use then on Sundays. Is that correct? Or are we going to be co-located, or are we the only ones using these rooms? Or will they get to use them on Sundays?
We will be the only ones using
Okay.
these rooms. Now, there is in the lease, they still have the ability to do a little some meetings in the fellowship hall, that large building or that large room on the lower right.
Okay.
But you're absolutely correct. They will have much nicer facilities that would be asbestos free for the safety of our kids and their parishioners.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the other part of this, as far as the timing, okay, so they're going to go ahead and do this abatement prior to the beginning of the school year because the company is busy during the summer. So once we approve this, then we're going down that path of making the renovations. So once we go in and we abate this, and then it's really going to be kind of a shell that's sitting there. So this is only the first phase, but it is a commitment on the part of the board to complete this project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Attached to what Dr. Puster just said, the church, the timelines that we're starting the renovation and all of that, is that cleared with the church?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
And like Dr. Puska said, we have a commitment. And then as Carl said, you know, it's so many uncertainties with the cost of materials and so many things. And I know that, as I told Carl, some of the board members had flashbacks from the other project that we had and how it kind of escalated. You know, there is a potential now. I don't see it escalating by, you know, another $1 million, but there is the potential for us to have to come back and say, you know, this has went up or this or that, you know, when we're dealing with contractors. And I think Mr. Clemens and Dr. Puska can talk to that.
Well, let me just ask, so are we doing competitive seal proposals for the construction work? So
Yes.
then the prices should be pretty well set, because with a competitive seal proposal, they commit to a certain number of dollars. Now, there might be things that are uncovered during construction that you don't know about, and that's why you have a contingency fee or a contingency amount built in. But as long as it's within that scope of work that we put out and they committed to, there should not be substantial escalation of the cost. Is that correct?
Unless, like you say, they find something that was unexpected, you know, and it may, you know, come in. And so that, you know, that's what I'm saying, as material prices go up and they say, well, this is something new that we didn't know about. This is how much it's going to cost to, you know, to repair.
And we do have contingency money built into the project. We built in 10% of the costs. So we do have some contingency money built into that.
You know, in the past, I've had experience of working with Marmon Mock, and they're really good. It's an excellent company to be working with. So they're reliable. So if they say that, if they're doing the evaluations of the bids, they'll evaluate them fairly. And, you know, one of the things you've got to be careful of is those that come in far too low, and they're doing that just to get the bid. And Marmon Mock has been at this for decades now, so they should be able to tell which contractors, which subcontractors are on the up and up, and which bids you can take and know that they'll be there and complete the work. My experience with them has been very good. The only thing is, and I know all of you hear the same things about the timeline, because, you know, construction now, they're not making any promises about the completion of it. And since this is a school, and, you know, we'll be starting school again in the fall, can you talk just a minute about what happens if the material doesn't come in the way that it was supposed to? So there are delays that happen, because I think that the expectation, I mean, we hope that everything finishes in the time provided, but in case it doesn't, you know, we've got to start school, students still need to be educated come August. So what does that plan look like?
So in our conversations with Marmon Mock and our material selections, we have selected materials that are available and do not have any back orders. They're not foreign in origin. So we once the bids are locked in, we fully expect that they will be able to meet those deadlines, not because of material delays. And with that, we are setting our goal for a September 6th. That's the day after Labor Day, opening for the new location. And we have the ability to extend our lease on a month-to-month basis at a current location, should we run into any problems. We would try to make that transition, like I said, as smoothly as possible after Labor Day. The kids would still start school at the regular time. We would just have to make that move.
And that's the same way we were with Corpus. We had to move shortly
We did.
after the school year.
It's exactly the same thing with Corpus. We did the day after Labor Day, and it was a smooth transition.
You know, that's just the nature of construction with schools. What you want is that everything's finished by the first day of school, but you know, if not, they will be pleased to get to the new facility. It's new. It'll be new to them.
And I think because a lot of our, we're moving over or relocating a lot of the furniture and that sort of thing. So that will help. We don't have to purchase furniture, wait for it to come in. Those are things that create delays, and we'll be able to avoid some of those issues.
You know, you are moving to a larger facilities. I assume that you budgeted for additional furniture, additional computers, things like that. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Other questions?
If not, if there aren't any other questions, then I would like to entertain a motion to approve Vanco Insulation Incorporated of Midland, Texas, to do the asbestos abatement.
Bob Clemens, so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. White. Okay, let me do a roll call vote. I approve. How about you, Ms. Thompson?
You
She got
muted.
She's muted.
Okay,
Question,
Rose Thompson, approve.
okay, Dr. White,
Francis White approved.
good, and Mr. Clemens.
Approve.
Okay, very good. Go forth and construct new classrooms. So
We'll do it.
I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there's anything that we need to go into closed session about, is there?
No.
Okay, very good. And one of the things that I did not check was if there were any public comments. Rebecca, are there anybody that wants to make public comments?
No, ma'am, we did not receive any.
Okay, very good. So if there are no public comments, then, and our one agenda item has been taken care of. I see here that there is the next meeting will be scheduled for, when will it be?
May 20th.
May 20th, okay. All right, very good. So I would like to adjourn the meeting and tell everyone thank you for being here and participating in this. And Carl, we look forward to an update.
Thank you. I'll have one on the 20th.
Okay, busy time of year.
Yes.
And the time is, I don't see my clock, 10:30 roughly. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.